Hare Krishna. Can you all hear me clearly? You have my sympathies then. Hare Krishna, everybody. Everybody that's in the temple complex here and everybody who's listening in online, we welcome you to the Srimad Bhagavatam Discourse at Radha Kalachandjidam, Dallas, Texas, for those of you who are listening in far away. My name is Rupanuga Das. I'm a disciple of His Holiness Tamal Krishna Goswami, grand disciple of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. This morning we're going to be reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 6, and we'll be reading the translations for text number 35 through 45. And then we'll come back to text number 35 and read the transliterations and the purports. The Sanskrit, in other words. So those of you who are listening in from some distance away, you can take out your cell phone and go to vedabase.io and read along with us, or if you have a book, Second Canto, Chapter 6. And before we begin, we'll have an invocation to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Shri Krishna. This microphone needs to be turned up. Jai Hari Prabhu, could you do that? Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jai Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jasodhanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jasodhanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jasodhanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Gaura Premananda Hari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribhajaka Charja Hasto Tarasata Sri Srimad His Divine Loving Grace, Abhaya Charanadavinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada Ki. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paribhajaka Charja Asto Tarasata Sri Srimad His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ananta Koti Vaishnavanda Ki. ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki, ISKCON Guru Parampara ki, Shri Rup Shri Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jiva Gopal Bhatta Dasa Raghunath Sad Goswami Prabhu ki, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki, Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki, Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhana ki, Shri Vrindavan Dham ki, Shri Mathura Dham ki, Shri Mayapur Navadvip Dham ki, Shri Jagannath Puri Dham ki, Shri Shri Radha Kalachandji Dham ki, Ganga Devi ki, Jamuna Mai ki, Tulsi Devi ki, Bhakti Devi ki, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda ki, Brihat Madanga Transcendental Book and Prasadam Distribution ki, Nitagora Premananda, Hari Bol, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories, all glories, all glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pistaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namare. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauripati Pacharine Nivishesha Shunyabari Paschatya Deshitarini. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Yasan Tato Jayam Udirayat Nasta Pareshva Badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Bhakti Bhavari Naistaki Gantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. So do we have on the board here Canto 2, Chapter 6, text number 35. Do we have it? Okay. Radha? Radhe? Radhika. Would you kindly read the translation to text number 35, please?
Although I am known as a great Brahma, perfect in the disciplic succession of Vedic wisdom, and although I have undergone all austerities and am an expert in mystic powers and self-realization, and although I am recognized as such by the great forefathers of the living entities who offer me respectful obeisances, still I cannot understand him, the Lord, the very source of my birth.
Oh, very good. What happened? The microphone get turned on? Okay, text number, by the way, who is speaking here? Radhika?
I'm not sure who's speaking.
His name is mentioned in the text itself. Lord Brahma, that's correct. Yeah, Lord Brahma is correct. And he's saying that although he is known all over this universe and is highly respected by different great personalities, including Narada Muni. I think he's speaking to Narada Muni here, who is his son, one of his sons, Lord Brahma's sons. So even though he is greatly recognized by everyone within this universe, still he cannot understand him, the Lord, the very source of my birth. And so who is the Lord that he's speaking of? Krishna. All right. Text number 36, please.
Therefore it is best for me to surrender unto his feet, which alone can deliver one from the miseries of repeated birth and death. Such surrender is all auspicious and allows one to perceive all happiness. Even the sky cannot estimate the limits of its own expansion. So what can others do when the Lord himself is unable to estimate his own limits?
And even though we're not scheduled to read the purports, I want you just to notice that Prabhupada has written 2.5 pages of purports on that text. So this is something that you can go back and do in your own private time, and the purports are valuable. Text number 37, please.
Since neither Lord Shiva nor you nor I could ascertain the limits of spiritual happiness, how can other demigods know it? And because all of us are bewildered by the illusory eternal energy of the Supreme Lord, we can see only this manifested cosmos according to our individual ability.
And just to Dumna Prabhu, what does ascertain mean? Yes, come to understand. Determine the limits of spiritual happiness. Okay, very good. Okay, Bhakta Jose Prabhu.
38. Let us offer our respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose incarnation and activities are chanted by us for glorification, though he can hardly be fully known as he is.
Okay, very good. Jai Hari Prabhu, number 39.
That Supreme Original Personality of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna, expanding his plenary portion as Mahavishnu, the first incarnation, creates this manifested cosmos, but he is unborn. The creation, however, takes place in him, and the material substance and manifestations are all himself. He maintains them for some time and absorbs them into himself again.
Okay, so the word plenary portion, the words plenary portion here are given. Does anybody know what that word plenary means? Do you know what it means? Absolute. Close, yes. It means complete. Complete. I used to think when I first read plenary portion, I thought that meant just just a small portion, or some fraction of a portion. But it actually means complete. And so that plenary portion is he's referring to here as who? In particular. Which Vishnu? There are three Vishnus, three Vishnu forms in this material world. One who lies down in the causal ocean, and from his from his pores, all of the universes come. That is Mahavishnu, and that's also known as Karanadakashayi Vishnu. Then there's another Vishnu form that enters into this universe, this particular universe, and he lies down on the Garbha ocean, which fills the lower half of this universe, and he is known as what? Garbhodakshayi Vishnu. And then the third Vishnu form, Haribo Mother Nandini, the third Vishnu form is located on the ocean of what? Milk. In what planet in this universe?
Shvetadvip?
Shvetadvip, yes. The planet is also known as the pole star. All the other planets and bodies within this universe circumambulate the pole star. Did you know that? It is actually considered to be a Vaikuntha planet within this universe. And on that planet, there is an ocean of milk, just as we have an ocean of salt water on this planet. So there's the ocean of milk, and Kshirodakshayi Vishnu lies down on that ocean on a bed of what?
Snake.
What snake? Sheshanaga, yeah. Is that what you said? Shesha, Lord Shesha, who is an expansion of Balaram. Yes, and also he's attended by whom?
Lakshmi Devi.
The goddess of fortune, Lakshmi Devi. And on his chest is what?
A mark of Srivatsa.
Marks of Srivatsa. Yes, the golden lines, which actually represent, I think, also Lakshmi Devi, goddess of fortune. She's always lies on the chest of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One of the functions of Lord Kshirodakshai Vishnu, the third one that we talked about, is what within this universe? It involves all living entities within this universe. What is it? Super soul. Super soul within the heart. That is Kshirodakshai Vishnu. Were you aware of that? All right, these things become apparent to us as we read. Okay, so Dristadumna Prabhu, would you read text 40 and 41, please? The translations only.
The personality of Godhead is pure, being free from all contaminations of material tinges. He is the absolute truth and the embodiment of full and perfect knowledge. He is all-pervading without beginning or end, and without rival. O Narada, O great sage, the great thinkers can know him when completely freed from all material hankerings, and when sheltered under disturbed conditions of the senses. Otherwise, by untenable arguments, all is distorted, and the Lord disappears from our sight.
Okay, at the beginning of this chapter, we find that Narada Muni originally was questioning, is there someone on whom you meditate, asking his father, Lord Brahma. And so now Lord Brahma is talking about the personality on whom he meditates. Okay, another very long purport here by Srila Prabhupada, and now text number 42, translation, please. Radhika, please.
Yes, Karna Vasai Vishnu is the first incarnation of the Supreme Lord, and he's the master of eternal time, space, cause and effects, mind, the elements, the material ego, the modes of nature, the senses, the universal form of the Lord, Garbha Dakshai Vishnu, and the sum total of all living beings, both moving and non-moving.
That's pretty inclusive, isn't it? And you notice the spelling, I said Karanadakashai Vishnu. That's one of the spellings and pronunciations. But this one is Karanarnavashai Vishnu. Okay, so this is another way that Srila Prabhupada has presented that name. Okay, text number 43 through 45, please.
I myself, Brahma, Lord Shiva, Lord Vishnu, great generators of living beings like Daksha and Prajapati, yourselves, Narada and the Kumaras, heavenly demigods like Indra and Chandra, the leaders of the Burloka planets, the leaders of the earthly planets, the leaders of the lower planets, the leaders of the Gandharva planets, the leaders of the Vidyadhara planets, the leaders of the Charanaloka planets, the leaders of the Yakshas, Rakshas, and Uragas, the great sages, the great demons, the great atheists, and the great spacemen, as well as the dead bodies, evil spirits, Satans, jinn, Kushmandas, great aquatics, great beasts, and great birds, etc. In other words, anything and everything which is exceptionally possessed of power, opulence, mental and perceptual dexterity, strength, forgiveness, beauty, modesty, opulence, and breeding, whether in form or formless, may appear to be the specific truth in the form of the Lord, but actually they are not so. They are only a fragment of the transcendental potency of the Lord.
So we're talking about just one universe here, and that's as far as we're going to read in this chapter. Within this one universe, there's so many wonderful features and personalities present, and all of them are subordinate to the Supreme Lord. And we understand that from the pores of the Mahavishnu are emanating unlimited numbers of universes, and each containing a very large number of planets and an incalculable number of living entities in different forms. And how many different forms of bodies are there in this universe? How many? 8 million. 8,400,000 different body forms in this universe, according to Srimad Bhagavatam. Of which, how many are human-like beings? The 400,000. So 8,400,000 different body forms within this universe. And Lord Brahma has been given the task of arranging the bodies for all the living entities within this universe. So you can just imagine how it's just, we cannot count, we cannot estimate the number of living entities that are within this one particular universe. And yet Lord Brahma is in touch with all of them. He's practically on the level, kind of on the level. I've heard this said about the Lord of Death. Who is that? Yamaraj. Yamaraj is practically on the same level of understanding the living entities and their activities and their karma as the Supersoul is. Supersoul being Kshirodakshayi Vishnu. And besides that, Lord Brahma has to arrange, he's given all the ingredients for establishing this universe. And then he hears the flute of Krishna. And then he understands what is coming from Krishna's flute is the instructions by which he can develop this entire universe. So Lord Brahma is a very powerful living entity. In our particular universe right now, this Lord Brahma is considered to be a jiva soul. But he's not always, at all times, he's not necessarily a jiva soul. Sometimes when there's not a suitable person in the universe to take the position of Lord Brahma, then Lord Krishna himself comes and plays the role of Lord Brahma. So right now we have three deities mainly who are operating everything within this universe. The first, of course, is Lord Vishnu, or Krishna. Lord Vishnu, and then Lord Brahma. So what does it say? Lord Brahma is responsible for secondary creation of this material world, taking the energy of the Lord and the instructions that he's received. He is the secondary creator of everything in this material world. And then who is the person responsible for the destruction, eventual? Lord Shiva. And who is responsible for the maintenance? Lord Vishnu. Lord Vishnu has the biggest headache. You know, he has to maintain everything. And of course, all the living entities have to be maintained in their position. So let us go back now to text number 35. And I would like for you to repeat after me, the line by line, the Sanskrit text. Ready to do that? Soham samam nayamayas-tapo maya. Is that the correct meter for this? No, I don't think so. Soham samam nayamayas-tapo maya. Let's lower that pitch a little bit. Soham samam nayamayas-tapo maya. Prajapati nam abhivandita pati. Ashtaya yogam nipunam samahitas. Tam nadya gacham yatta atmasambhava. Just a minute, would you repeat that? Or would you chant it? Okay, word for word. Sa aham, myself, the great Brahma. Samam naya maya, in the chain of disciplic succession of Vedic wisdom. Tapaha maya, successfully having undergone all austerities. Prajapatinam, of all the forefathers of living entities. Abhivandita, worshipable. Pati, master. Astaya, successfully practiced. Yogam, mystic powers. Nipunam, very expert. Samahita, self-realized. Tam, the Supreme Lord. Na, did not. Adhyagacham, properly understood. Yata, from whom? Atma, self. Sambhava, generated. Translation by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Would someone read, please? Dinatani?
Although I am known as the great Brahma, perfect in the disciplic succession of Vedic wisdom, and although I have undergone all austerities, and am an expert in mystic powers and self-realization, and although I am recognized as such by the great forefathers of the living entities, who offer me respectful obeisances, still I cannot understand Him, the Lord, the very source of my birth.
Okay, well, let's see. Jose Prabhu, would you please read the first paragraph of the purport?
Brahma, the greatest of all living creatures within the universe, is admitting his failure to know the Supreme Lord despite his vast learning in the Vedic wisdom, despite his authority, penance, mystic powers, and self-realization, and despite being worshipped by the great Prajapatis, the forefathers of the living entities. So these qualifications are not sufficient to know the Supreme Lord. Brahmaji could understand the Lord to a little extent only when he was trying to serve him by the eagerness of his heart.
That's all right, you don't have to pronounce it. Go on.
Which is the devotional service mood. Therefore, the Lord can be known only by the sincere mood of eagerness for service. Sorry. And not by any amount of material qualification. A scientist, or speculative philosopher, or by attainment of mystic powers. This fact is clearly corroborated in the Bhagavad Gita 18:54-55.
What does that word corroborate mean? Corroborate. Do you know what that word means?
Confirmed. Confirmed.
Confirmed? Yes, that's a good synonym. Backed up by. Okay, that's good. Now I would like for just to read the text there.
Brahmabhuta prasanatma nashochatina kankshati samasarveshu bhuteshu madbhaktim labhate param bhaktimam avijananti yavanyas chasmi tatvata Tomam tattvato gyatva vishate tadanantaram.
Okay, yeah, these are pretty well-known verses, texts from the Bhagavad Gita. Okay, Jai Prabhu, would you read some of the next paragraph of the purport? Actually, it's the same paragraph, but would you read some more of that, please?
Only self-realization by attainment of the above high qualifications of Vedic wisdom, austerity, etc., can help one on the path of devotional service. But failing in devotional service, one remains still imperfect, because even in that position of self-realization, one cannot factually know the Supreme Lord. By self-realization, one is qualified to become a devotee, and the devotee, by service mood, bhaktiya, only, can gradually know the personality of Godhead. One should not, however, misunderstand the import of vishyate, enters into, as referring to merging into the existence of the Supreme. Even in the material existence, one is merged in the existence of the Lord.
All right, now that's a pretty interesting observation there, isn't it? I don't want you to stop. Just hang on to the mic. It's pretty interesting here. Even in material existence, one is merged into the existence of the Lord. So in other words, we all have our existence in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But that does not mean that we ever lose our individual personalities and our identities, nor does the Supreme Lord lose his personality. Even though he can expand himself unlimited numbers of times, and from him are coming unlimited numbers of living entities such as ourselves, occupying different kinds of bodies, still he remains complete. He's the complete whole. Read on, please.
No materialist can disentangle self from matter, nor the self is merged in the external energy of the Lord. As no layman can separate butter from milk, no one can extricate the merged self from matter by acquiring some material qualification.
What's that word extricate mean? Anybody?
It's like
Break out? To free oneself? Yes. Okay, that's good. Go on, please.
this vishyate, by devotion, bhaktiya, means to be able to participate in the association of the Lord in person. Bhakti, or devotional service to the Lord, means to become free from material entanglement and then to enter into the kingdom of God, becoming one like Him. Losing one's individuality is not the aim of Bhakti Yoga or the devotees of the Lord. There are 5 types of liberation, one of which is called Sayuja Mukti, thank you, or being merged into the existence or body of the Lord. The other forms of liberation maintain the individuality of the particle soul and involve being always engaged in the transcendental love and service of the Lord. The word vishyate, used in the verses of the Bhagavad Gita, is thus meant for the devotees who are not at all anxious for any kind of liberation. The devotees are satisfied simply in being engaged in the service of the Lord.
Okay, so liberation is not our goal. It's just a byproduct, actually, of what? Devotional service, yes, bhakti. So it's said that mukti waits on, or is the servant of, bhakti. And so we're almost out of time here. All right, Radhika, would you please read that last paragraph, please?
Lord Brahma is the first living being who directly learned the Vedic wisdom from the Lord. Tene Brahma Hridaye Adi Kavaye. Therefore, who can be a more learned Vedantist than Lord Brahma? He admits that in spite of his perfect knowledge in the Vedas, he was unable to know the glories of the Lord. Since no one can be more than Lord Brahma, how can a so-called Vedantist be perfectly cognizant of the absolute truth? The so-called Vedantist, therefore, cannot enter into the existence of the Lord without being trained in the matter of Bhakti Vedanta, or Vedanta plus Bhakti. Vedanta means self-realization, and Bhakti means realization of the personality of Godhead to some extent. No one can know the personality of Godhead in full, but at least to a certain extent one can know the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, by self-surrender and a devotional attitude, and by nothing else. In the Brahma Samhita also it is said, Vedeshu Durlabham, or simply by study of Vedanta one can hardly find out the existence of the personality of Godhead. But the Lord is a Durlabham Atma Bhakto, very easily available to his devotee. Srila Vyasadeva therefore was not satisfied simply with compiling the Vedanta Sutras, But over and above this, by the advice of his spiritual master, Narada, he compiled the Srimad Bhagavatam in order to understand the real purport of Vedanta. Srimad Bhagavatam, therefore, is the absolute medium by which to understand the absolute truth.
So, we don't have time for any further discussion, but I just want to, we've got 1 minute, so I will say that to extricate oneself from the clutches of this material energy is not possible. To extricate oneself from the clutches of material energy is not possible. In order to get freed from bondage, like when you're tied up, you have to have someone else come and release the knot, to take the knot free. So this is the position of the spiritual master. It can be Shiksha Guru, which means what? Instructing spiritual master. Or it can be the Guru who gives initiation, Harinam initiation. So we understand that even Lord Brahma is accepting and is telling his son Narada that that it is not possible for me, even with all the powers that I have and with all the reputation, the fame that I have, it is not possible for me to even know to a small extent the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we have that Supreme Personality of Godhead standing and looking at us right now, wondering when we're going to surrender to our spiritual masters and take up the instructions by which we can come back to the spiritual world. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We offer our respectful obeisances to all the Vaishnava devotees of the Lord, who are just like desire trees, who fulfill the desires of everyone and who are full of compassion for the fallen conditioned souls. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhya eva cha patinanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namah anantakoti vaishnavrinda ki jai. Thank you everyone for listening in. Hope you have a great day, July the 5th. Hope you've recovered from July the 4th. And please, if you have time, chant the holy names, chant the holy names, chant the holy names. Hare Krishna.